Hello and a warm welcome to the Internet of Things Made Simple. I'm Larry Boy Humor. This is both mini episode 23 and the first of our 4-part series on the smart home. Many thanks for joining us. For our new listeners, welcome aboard and congrats on taking your first step to better understanding the fun world of IoT just a little better. If you are new to this podcast, I wanted to point out our webpage, the Internet of Things MadeSimple.com, which has some links to podcasts, some blogs, and ebooks that you might want to take a look at. We also have a decent back catalog of over 50 podcasts. They vary in length and in topics. And as always, I humbly ask the same two things. Please subscribe to this podcast using your favorite podcast service, which we're now on a couple dozen, including Apple, Google, Spotify, and more. And if your podcast service offers the chance to write a review, kindly leave us one, good, bad, or ugly. One of the most exciting things in the world of IoT is the ability to make any home smarter. By smarter, I don't mean that your family will now be competitive on Jeopardy, but rather you'll have access to key items in your home using the internet. In a nutshell, that's what making something smart does. It provides connectivity to and from it. However, in and of itself, connectivity does not do much. I mean, there's little power in it without the ability to take action. One of the initial benefits to making your home smart is getting that basic information. Did I turn the stove off? Did I close that garage door opener? Well, that's great. As I mentioned, there's definitely more upside. In this, the first of our 4-part series, we're going to cover how it is changing the lives of those with special needs. In the next 3, we're going to cover the pros and cons of using things like smart lights and other devices, how smart assistants can help you day to day, and finally, we'll tackle a big topic. Is your home actually more secure using smart home technology than if you did not use it? The answer may or may not surprise you. For this episode, we're going to be looking at how smart home technology is enabling those with special needs to not only stay in their home, but to do so more safely. Before we get into the solutions, it's important to note just how big of a market this is. With the improvements in healthcare over the past century or so, and the amount of baby boomers, we're going to have the largest cohort of people over 65 ever. When you add in those who are younger than that, but may have physical or cognitive issues, such as the ever-growing number of those with heart issues and conditions like autism, the number of people who may need assistance living alone is staggering, easily into the millions in the US. This is also the same issue for developed countries all over the world. Quite simply, there's going to be more people who are going to require assisted living than we would ever be able to build facilities for. And even if we could afford to build all of those facilities, we'd never be able to staff them with enough qualified workers. So the goal needs to be to provide assistance through technology that makes it safer for people to live in their homes. In this podcast, we're going to highlight some solutions that do just that, ranging from ensuring they are safe, healthy, and their home is properly maintained to keep up its value. The first way that IoT is helping those with special needs comes from a recent CNET story about Rob Jones. Sergeant Jones tragically lost his legs during an attack in Afghanistan about a decade ago. Thanks to the generosity of the Stephen Siller Tunnel to Towers Foundation, he now has a new smart home to help improve the quality of his life for him and for his wife. This nonprofit agency does this for military and first responders who were injured in the line of duty. The article goes on to point out that over 3 million Americans now use some sort of wheelchair-like device for day-to-day living, which is a staggering 1% of the population, much, much more than I ever would have thought it would be. The power behind the system is something called Control 4, which is kind of like the command center. It controls everything from light switches to window shades and even the audio system inside the home. It's controlled using a combination of touchscreen control panels and eventually using audio voice control, I guess like Alexa or Siri. This home offers something that I kind of wish I had in my home, smart toilets. Now, I've criticized these kind of devices before as being excessive, but in this case, it kind of is useful and cool. The toilets have sensors that detect when they need to be deodorized and clean themselves, as well as the ability to heat up the seat in advance of a morning visit. It does this using data and predictive analytics, which is an interesting way to do it. The system is not only about providing a bit of luxury, it's also about keeping these people safe. It has a complete set of sensors and cameras to keep the place safe, and it has a complete automatic fire suppression system to put out any fires before they could cause a lot of damage. This does make sense if you think about it, considering those with special needs may have issues that could prevent quick evacuations, and that could include anything from a loss of hearing to mobility concerns. The final point that I wanted to cover here is one of the biggest issues that many veterans have about these homes. They don't feel they deserve them. Most of them are very proud people who don't like the idea of needing help from anyone. However, I think once one realizes that a home like this allows them to live a normal life, many decide to take the gift and to pay it forward to others. This includes how Sergeant Jones incredibly has completed his 4th tower climb to raise money for those who have lost their lives during 9/11. Many thanks to CNET for this wonderful story. Now on to point number 2. There are many great things about being a homeowner, at least in my opinion. I do love the idea of having total control over all aspects of your home. There's a great sense of pride in owning something, as modest as it may be, and you can establish roots for your kids to grow up in. All of that is great, but you know what's not so great? Maintaining that home. Yeah, many people truly love to get out and keep their lawn looking like the 16th green at Augusta, but most of us do not. And I mentioned in another podcast, snow may look like a postcard when it's falling, but after it falls, it's not the most pleasant thing to go out and do in the cold and shovel your driveway. I may not love some of these things. They're not even possible for many people with special needs to do, which is often the reason why many of them leave their homes in the first place. Enter in IoT-driven solutions for the smart home. The first area I'm going to talk about here is how sensors combined with software programs can let you know what's going on in your home in real time. Smart systems alert you to many things in advance. Is there a pool of water in your furnace room that may be indicative of some kind of a big failure about to happen? Is your AC unit operating outside of its normal range and may fail during the next heat wave? Those are just 2 examples of how IoT can alert you to a major issue in advance, which is especially important for those who may either forget to check on them or may have issues doing routine checks. The next area has to do with automated maintenance and activities. Imagine you live in a location that gets a big blast of sunshine in your windows each morning. For many, this does sound nice, but it also can cause some concerns. That sunshine blast might be welcome on a cold day as it heats up your home for basically free, but not so welcome on a very warm day when it's unnecessarily spiking up your AC usage. Automated blinds use different light detection systems to help keep things right. In terms of maintenance, there are systems now that look after many of the things that I don't like to do. They can turn on or off exterior lights based on time of day or level of light, or even if it's sunset or sunrise. They can turn on water irrigation systems, cut your grass on a schedule, and they can do things based on a determined need, like turning on heated walkways if it detects a buildup of ice. When you combine all these things together, it helps lower the cost of home maintenance as well as keep loved ones safe in their home for much longer. As I mentioned earlier in the story of Sergeant Jones, people are often reluctant to ask for help. In addition to not wanting to feel helpless, many are concerned about a lack of privacy and potentially dignity. While they might need support, they also want to maintain as much independence as possible, which we're going to cover here in point number 3. While a system like a video surveillance system may provide a remote loved one with a complete understanding and idea of how their loved one is doing, many will find this to be intrusive, and probably rightly so. This is especially true for parents and children. I read one story about how a couple wanted to look after their husband's father this way, and he said, quote, his lady friends would object to being filmed while running around naked around his house. It seems that Pops really has it all figured out. In all seriousness, it's often difficult to strike a balance between helping and intrusiveness, but a few systems seem to be emerging that are doing just that. One of the more interesting technologies involves a combination of heat sensors and artificial intelligence. Everything, and for that matter, everyone, in your home has its own unique set of heat readings that can be detected by heat sensors. These heat sensors can detect changes in the temperature of a toaster or an oven, as an example, to alert that they have or are being used. They can also detect not only when a person enters, but can identify the certain person. However, the simple detection is of little value if the data is not put into a useful state, and that's where AI and software come in. Say about the same time each morning, there's a change in temperature of that thing on the counter. Software allows you to identify it as a toaster based on its location. Now that same software allows you to either be notified every time it's used, or you can be notified if it's not used by a certain time, say by 9 a.m. At no time do you ever see Pops use the toaster, or even know if it's Pops, whom, as I mentioned, likes to have guests. The same holds true for exceptions. Imagine you have a heat sensor pointed down the hall that leads towards the bedrooms. For the most part, people walk along the hall without stopping, or at least not stopping for long, so it's kind of unusual that a human heat source would be in a stationary position for more than, say, a few seconds. If this were to happen and somebody were to be lying on the floor, you'd be notified. The great thing about using a system based on AI is it learns more and more as time goes on, and they can continue to improve their level of effectiveness, as I mentioned, as time goes on. For point number 4, I remember those commercials from I think it's the 90s, but it could be the 80s as well, for the life call system. You might better remember it for the woman who famously pushes her call button and says, "I have fallen and I can't get up." For its time, these were pretty effective systems as they allowed for some mobility in the home while providing some assurance for remote loved ones. However, many issues can happen outside the home. Even if your loved one doesn't go all that far and may not even drive anymore, they might still walk over to a nearby friend, a park, or even go to the mailbox. So that life call system had its limitations as there was only a small range that the pendant could be from the main controller box, and that controller box used the landline phone to call. Fast forward to today, many wearables are starting to come with built-in cellular and often GPS-based systems to help with this. This allows the device to be used both in the home and while outside the home. As well, depending on the needs of your loved one, there are different alerts and sensors that can keep them safe. Perhaps your loved one tends to get a bit confused and may wander from time to time. Systems allow you to first be notified if a gate to the property has been opened, which would likely indicate they've left the property. If they do, you can track their location using a combination of cellular data and GPS aboard the wearable. However, your loved one may not have any cognitive issues, but instead, you're concerned about their physical health. Maybe they're recovering from surgery or they've had previous heart and stroke issues. There are sensors that can detect everything from an elevated heart rate to an unexpected fall and to notify you when they happen. If you're interested in learning more about this subject, you might want to check out mini episode 12 from April, where we covered how IoT is helping prevent your first and/or your next heart attack. Much of that episode will apply even to those having other issues like a possible stroke. The final topic we're going to cover has to do with how IoT keeps your loved ones healthy. Now, I've covered this subject in a few previous podcasts, so it's more of a recap with perhaps a couple of little twists. If you want to learn much more, check out episode 7 from December on IoT and health and episode 10 from January, which was a recap of some devices from the Consumer Electronics Show, or CES, and that had some devices that would fall into this space. Many illnesses and conditions have ways that can either be kept under control or at least dampen some of the issues that they may cause. This might be through medication, perhaps an increase in exercise, or a change of diet, or all three of them. Regardless of which one is needed, IoT can help. Now, I've covered IoT and exercise a lot, so I'm just going to skim over it here. While many high-performance athletes use IoT sensors to help their performance, it also has the ability to help just about anyone stay healthier. By alerting to a lack of movement, sitting down too long is just as bad as not exercising at all, and by encouraging the wearer to take more steps, this can help to improve their overall health. And as recent articles have pointed out, you don't need to take the famous 10,000 steps. Increasing that number to as little as 4,000 a day has a strong improvement on your overall health and well-being. I have also spoken about how IoT is helping to increase the ability for many to adhere to their medication schedules. Smart pill bottles both provide reminders to take medication as well as when to be refilled. As well, there's many smart dispensers that allow either the right combination of pills to be taken or to take them in the right order. We're now also seeing many drugstore chains get involved with these systems. They're probably doing it mostly as a way of maintaining customer loyalty, but it's still good to see. Finally, eating healthy and regularly is both a concern for many people with special needs and a relatively low-cost way to keep one healthy and out of the hospital. Tools like smart cooking scales to ensure correct portion size, to allergy detection tools to prevent those who may have allergies like nuts and dairy from consuming harmful items, and to automated cutting tools to allow loved ones to eat veggies perhaps while avoiding injury. These things are all making it much easier than ever. As a final note, even if you don't currently look after a loved one today, many will in the future. We are all living longer than ever before, which has and will put a lot of strain on our families and public healthcare systems. By using the power of IoT in your home and in nursing homes, we can help ease the transition for many into their golden years while reducing the strains on an already overworked system. As always, I'd love to hear from you, both from a comment standpoint and if you have a topic that you want us to cover. The best way to start is our Facebook page, The Internet of Things Made Simple, which also has some links to previous material. If I'm connected to you on LinkedIn, that's a good place to start. And if I'm personally connected to you, drop me an old-fashioned email or text. We can definitely hook up that way. Thanks again for listening. I'm Larry Boyhumer. Take care.